You're tuning in to the Black Hollywood Live Network, featuring news, interviews, and commentary on all things Black Hollywood. Hollywood redefined. From Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is Black Hollywood Live Portraits, featuring intimate, in-depth interviews with Black Hollywood stars and influencers. Black Hollywood Live, Hollywood redefined.
You're listening to Black Hollywood Live.
And now, the host for Black Hollywood Live Portraits, Derrial Christon.
Hey everybody, you're watching Black Hollywood Live Portraits. I'm your host, Derrial Christon, and here joining me in the studio today is DJ Jesse J.
What up?
And the lovely Courtney Stewart.
Hello, everybody.
Our special guest today we are really excited about. He is a superstar wrestler, also an actor. We have Chavo Guerrero Sr.
What's going on, guys? After today, we're going to change to Brown Hollywood Live.
Brown Hollywood Live.
Brown Pride, son. Brown Pride.
Brown Pride. What's up? Brown Pride. On Martin Luther King's birthday.
That's it. That's it.
That works.
That's
All
right.
come in one form.
That's right, for sure.
Well, thank you for joining us today. Now, you are a third-generation wrestler, right?
That's right. That's right.
How did you get started in the business? At what age did you know you wanted to be a wrestler?
My entire life. As long as I can remember, I wanted to be a wrestler. Years over now, that was it. I grew up in the backyard. There was no swing sets. There was actually a wrestling ring. That's the truth. That's the truth. And, just growing up around the business with my grandfather a wrestler, and my father and uncles and cousins and, dogs and cats. We just, I learned really to walk in a ring. I was crawling in a ring and me and my Uncle Eddie used to camp out underneath the ring. That was like our tent. We lived in that thing. No joke.
What was your first move you learned in that ring?
God, you know what? I couldn't even remember. I always knew how to do everything. It was really weird. When I first started training for wrestling, people have to train and start learning moves. I could do other moves already. I've been doing them my whole life. It was a no-brainer. I could do flips and this, and I just, I used to, when the ring wasn't around, I'd go to the couch and jump on the couch and do flips off the couch. It was weird. I just my whole life to do it. Now I didn't know when I first started training. I didn't know why I was doing the moves. Right. If you're in the wrestling world, we always say that anybody can go do a backflip and a hurricanrana, but you got to know when and why you're doing it. There's certain places to do those in the ring, But I had no idea why, but I had learned that.
Now, with so many family members who were wrestlers, like you mentioned, your grandfather, your father, your uncles, was it expected for you to be a wrestler? Like, could you come and be like, you know what, I want to be a pediatrician?
Yeah, right. I really want to. Yeah,
I really want to, be a dog walker.
Yeah, totally. You know what? They never pushed it upon me. They never said, "Hey, you're gonna be a wrestler," and that's it. But it just, we lived, breathed, slept, ate wrestling. We really did, and that was our whole entire life was engulfed by it. So there was really no doubt that I wasn't going to be a wrestler. But it's I always wanted my whole life. That's I just knew it. I was going to be, and even talking to some of my friends, because we're not big guys. The Guerrero family, we grew up in the land of the giants. We really did, but the land of, we call it the land of the white giants because and we were short brown guys, and we made it, But telling my friends, hey, I'm gonna be a wrestler when I grow up. They were like, dude, you're 5'2". You're not going to be a wrestler. And some of my friends, literally, after I became a wrestler, they'd look at me and go, you know what, we used to laugh at you. We used to think there's no way that you're going to do this. And you did it. They're like, mad props, but that's one thing I tell everybody. I go, don't ever listen to the haters because they're out there. They're there to not see you succeed. And it's always some guy that's sleeping on his mom's couch at 26 years old is telling you, giving you his advice, right? You're like, and then, why do you listen to him? But I always say, don't even listen to those guys. I mean, go out and achieve your dreams. Nothing can stop you. If you want to do it, do it.
What was going through school like for you? If you kind of already knew from a really early age what you want to do, how was that sort of affecting you being in school?
Well, I always want this argument. My dad can beat your dad up. I always want that one. No one ever questioned that. They maybe messed around with me and stuff, but everybody knew that my dad was the toughest guy around.
Don't mess with senior.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, besides your family, who were some of your idols in wrestling growing up?
Oh man, it was different than the idols that other normal people who like wrestling have. My idols were the ones that I knew, because I knew so many of them growing up that, Roddy Piper and Andre the Giant. These are guys that I knew. Those are the guys that I looked up to. Yeah, you see some people that you don't know. You may be fans of them, but the idols were, of course, my family, but the Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair and Andre the Giant and those kind of guys. Those were my idols.
And in 1994, you made your wrestling debut.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, the preparation and just the mental anxiety I feel like a wrestler might have just for their first match?
Huge. It was a great treat because it was here at the Olympic Auditorium, which is now like a big Korean church. But it was the Olympic Auditorium for it. Really, it's like I was looking for it. I was going to the Staples Center one time, and I was like, I know it's around here somewhere. I see this big Korean church, but where is it? And sure enough, I guess it's a big Korean church now. But it was, that was wrestling in Los Angeles. That's the reason why we moved from El Paso, Texas. That's the home of the Guerreros, El Paso, Texas. The reason we moved to L.A. was because my dad started wrestling for what at the time was the WWC, I believe it was called, with Mike LaBelle, and Roddy Piper was there, and Superstar Billy Graham, and all these. Anybody who's anybody went through that territory.
Yeah.
And he started wrestling here, and it was supposed to be for 1 year, and we just moved and ended up staying, and I knew that arena back and forth as a kid. My dad became the booker, the promoter, not the promoter, but the booker there, and which is like the matchmaker, I was around there, at 5, 8 years old, just running around every nook and cranny of that place. So for me to make my debut there it was awesome. It was like, wow, this is. I use the most overused word in the English language now. It was surreal.
Surreal.
Everybody says that. Nobody said surreal like 10 years ago, right?
Right.
Now all of a sudden, like Britney Spears, like it was so surreal. I'm like, oh my god.
And amazing. That's
like
another one.
amazing. That's like my pet peeve. But and it was funny because when I actually, I've been wrestling my whole life, and been in front of crowds and everything. It was great. It was no problem. But now when you're in the ring and I'm looking over at some big old, 280-pound guy that wants to beat me up. When they announced my name, I didn't even hear it. I didn't hear it. I was just like, I didn't know, Chavo Guerrero Jr. I didn't like raise my hands and go, yeah, that's right. I was like petrified. I didn't even hear it. And my dad would be like, put your hands up,
You got that little extra push behind you.
Yeah. I was like, can I go to the bathroom?
And you wrestled in both Mexico and Japan.
Yep.
What was the biggest difference for you? Did you kind of notice?
They're definitely different styles. But the thing with the Guerrero family, and not to toot our own horn, but we've been everywhere, we've wrestled everywhere. So our style really transcends a Japanese style, a Mexican style, the Lucha Libre style, American style, Europe style, because we've been everywhere. So if you look at what we do, we can fly with you, we can brawl with you, we can wrestle with you, we can do anything in the professional wrestling business, period, over and out. And what makes, I guess, the reason why we've survived in the business for so long is because we can adapt to everybody. Whoever we're wrestling, big, small, tall, fat, fast, slow, we can have good matches with them and make them look better than they are, than because we're able to adapt to what they do. So I always say, I use the Bruce Lee term a lot. His quote, "You want to be like water." Your water, you put it in a glass, it takes the shape of the glass. You put it in a mug, it takes the shape of the mug. You put it on the ground, it takes the shape of that mug, of the ground. So that's how we are. That's how I was taught to become like water in that ring and take the shape of whoever you're wrestling. Don't make them adapt to you. You adapt to them. And I think that's really why we've been able to survive as long as we have in this business.
That's a great philosophy too.
Yeah.
I need to morph that into my life right now.
Go,
I'm
right?
gonna steal that one.
I'm trying to think.
Be like
Okay, so
water.
I'm gonna be a mug.
I'm gonna send this one out.
Yeah. Could it be like a real nice bottle, like an Evian bottle? Or
Fanta
something?
bottle.
Fanta. Yeah.
Now, is that something that theoretically speaking, that your family sort of came to as they were, as your father was wrestling and things that they sort of acquired over time? Or is that sort of a theory that going into it, they were on top of, ready to go because they wanted to be able to sort of fit into all those arenas?
Yeah, I was always taught that, and I think we developed that not really knowing that we were going to go that route, but then by the time I came around, that's how it was, and that's how I was taught. Learn to do everything in this business. That way, when you're in the ring with somebody, you're not limited and like, okay, well, I can only punch and kick. well then that you're limited. You really are limited. We're able to do everything that when we're in that ring, we can. We always try to say we can make everybody look better than they are.
Yeah, and World Championship Wrestling recruited you, and from that you won a 2-time WCW Cruiserweight, the champion and former 1-time WCW Tag-Team Championship before the company closed in 2001. How was that experience, and how did that change your life, actually? I mean, I'm sure that had to be pretty amazing. We're going to use that word that everyone uses, amazing.
Amazing.
Was it
surreal?
Surreal. WCW, the history of WCW used to be called the NWA. And that was with and not talking about
I was gonna say,
that.
I know a different NWA. I know
not talking about
NWA.
that, which is, I love that. That's the game changer right there, too. But it was called the National Wrestling Alliance. That was the biggest wrestling company in the world. But then when the WWF, at the time, started getting bigger and bigger and started acquiring all these different organizations, because back then it was territories. It wasn't just, WWF or the WWF at the time was the New York territory. You had the WWC over here in LA. You had the Mid-South, so and so. This, everybody had the territories, and so as a wrestler, you went from one territory to the next territory. You spent 2 months here, 5 months there, 6 months there, and went from territory to territory. Well, after WWF started getting so big that NWA, Ted Turner, who was having some struggles with Vince McMahon about doing some programming on TBS and TNT. So Ted Turner decided, well, I'm buying WWE or NWA, and I'm calling it now WCW. And now Vince McMahon, I am in the wrestling business. Well, Vince McMahon said, hey, that's funny because I'm in the entertainment business. So that's a completely different business. Right. But going to the WCW, which was on the huge rise at the time, they had the NWO, and they were stealing all different talent, from Hulk Hogan to Macho Man Randy Savage, and taking everybody from WWF. And that company just started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And my uncle Eddie went there, and all the guys from Japan, like Dean Lincoln, Chris Benoit, and Rey Mysterio, and it was like, gosh, this is now the biggest wrestling company in the world.
Yeah.
And for me to go there, I was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But I fooled them pretty good, I went in there, I was like, all right, let me just do all these moves. Luckily, they put me in the ring with some good guys that actually made me look good. Yeah. So it was just, great experience and just great place to cut my teeth, if you want to call it. And at the time, wrestling, I came in when you got all these older guys that were still there, and the guys that are established now, and then it was the young guys. So there was a big flux of all these different people. So man, it was so much fun, and just being on the road with these guys for what I wanted to do my whole life and living my dream. And I didn't even care that I was making a little money. I was like, oh man, I'm a wrestler. This is great.
And then you started working with your uncle closely and teamed up with him.
Yep.
And was it tough working with family? I mean, you know how that is when you're sitting with your family members sometimes, and then especially working with them on a day-to-day basis. How was that?
At times, for sure. My Uncle Eddie was 3 years older than me, but he'd been in the business a lot longer than just 3 years. He started when he was younger, like 18. I didn't start really till I was 24. He was like my big brother, and he really, opened the doors for me and really taught me on the job. He really did. It was great working with him. Yeah, we had our tiffs here and there, but that's like brothers, big brother and his little brother. But we got in each other's face a bunch of different times, but we never ever laid a hand on each other ever. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of FUs, but there was never there was so much respect and too much love there. So we just we never ever laid a hand on each other ever.
And his storyline, I know that there was. I read that you had a problem initially with kind of going the route of his storyline. I think it was something fun that he was playing off of. What was your biggest problem with that?
Well, originally they wanted us to do some stuff together, and it's funny because one guy, his name was Colin. He was a photographer. Came in, and we were in Panama City Beach, Florida. So he had an airbrush shirt saying, Eddie Guerrero is my favorite wrestler, and he said, "Hey, Chavo, it'd be a good idea if you wore this on TV," because I had lost in the storyline. I had lost a match to my Uncle Eddie, who was the bad guy, and I was a good guy. And then if I won, he had to change his ways to be a good guy. Well, he won, of course, and I had to start being a bad guy, and it was against my will. I didn't want to be a bad guy. I wanted to be such a good guy. Little did I know, that bad guy's a lot more fun. But I wore the shirt, and Eddie was like, "This is a great idea," and I was like, "No way! I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna like lower myself and say Eddie Guerrero's my favorite wrestler. No, you kind of are, but I don't want to. I want to be my own person." And he convinced me, and I did it, and still to this day, people still ask me about that. Like, "Oh man, I wish I had one of those shirts. Eddie Guerrero's my favorite wrestler." Because once I wore it, people started airbrushing their own shirts.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And coming out with Eddie Guerrero's my favorite wrestler. And how couldn't he be? The guy was incredible.
Yeah, you need to get those and sell them on eBay.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, totally. Right, yeah.
Make some big money off of those vintage shirts. Now, how do you go about developing your egos? I mean, like your alter egos. I mean, the wrestlers a lot of times change their names several times during the course of the years, and have different storylines that they create. How did you go about creating yours? And like Pepe, for example,
Yeah, that was again. I was with Eddie. I was kind of going crazy now because he was making me big bad guy, and I didn't want to. And just one time, it just a lot of it's by chance, by luck. We were at his house in the backyard, and his daughters came out with this little stick horse, and I said, "Oh man, I'm kind of being like a crazy guy on TV," which just happened, out of the blue. Just was like, "Hey, why don't you start being crazy?" All right, so I started doing that, and like he's, I was, a screw was loose because, whatever. But I saw like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use this one time. So I came out on TV with a stick horse, and then the next week I didn't have it. And I'm not kidding you, when there was 15 or 20 of them in the audience, and people had Pepe signs and stuff, and I'm like, oh, I guess I got to start coming out with this stick horse. Oh, what did I do to myself? But sure enough, I came out with this thing for about like a year straight, and was riding a friggin' stick horse, and people loved it. I still get asked about this to this day. When I first moved to my house, my mailman was like, "Hey man, yeah, I'm a big fan. I didn't really like that stick horse thing, but I'm a big fan of yours." And I said, "Oh, well, that's funny because that stick horse just bought this house."
Right.
And he goes, I never thought about it that way.
Exactly.
I guess I like it.
I kind of like it.
Yeah.
What about Lieutenant Loco and the Misfits in Action?
That was their idea. A lot of times it's the organization's idea. They'll come to you and say, "How about doing this?" And it's hard to say no.
Do you get to work with them?
Sometimes you say, "Oh, okay, let's do it," but you try to make it yours as you do it, and kind of appease them. Because if you say, "No, I don't want to do that," well, they're like, "Well, we're throwing this bone to you. We want you to, and you don't want to do it. Well, we'll get somebody else. You're back on the back burner." So a lot of times it was just keeping yourself on TV, and there was some of the politics about it. But I had fun doing it. We just changed your name a little bit. You're still really the same kind of guy in there, and everybody knew who it was. It just, just a different way of going about it, and you just kind of make it work.
And how did the transformation go from that to you actually saying, "You know what, I want to use my own name"?
Yeah, I went back to Chavo Guerrero, just like, I turned on the Misfits in Action, the MIA guys, and I went back to being a bad guy and being Chavo Guerrero. So it just transitions, that's the politics of wrestling. You just make it work. I became another character, Kerwin White. I denounced my Mexican heritage, and now I'm a white guy, and I bleached my hair blonde, and I'm wearing all this obnoxious, Izod, bright-colored pastel stuff, and people are like, "That's not how we dress." I said, "Yes, you do." And now I'm you. I'm white, just like
"Yes,
you. And they're like, "But that's not who we are." I said, "Yes, you are." So it was a bad guy. Everybody hated me on that. But that's I came home from Japan one time, and Vince McMahon goes, "Well, Chavo, Kerwin, I should say." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "You are now a white guy." See, but I wanted to go. I was like, "Hey, we're gonna do this. Let's do it right, man." I wanted to go completely white, like wear like a white sheet. I did. I was like, man,
Is that like a white sheet?
I wanted to go like really like it wasn't racist because everybody knew I was Mexican.
Right.
Yeah.
I was still Mexican. I'm still brown. But I'm saying, "No, I'm white like you guys." "No, you're not." "Yes, I am." "No, you're not." So I wanted to go all the way with it, but I think that's just with sponsors and stuff and being on TV, you can't do it. Yeah. You can't. Sometimes you can't.
You got to keep it tame. Yeah, you got to go PC.
You can't do what you. Yeah.
Well, now with the wrestling part of it, the athletic part, I mean, you grew up doing it, and part of it is probably in your DNA to a certain extent.
Sure.
But the alter ego portion and the sort of personality and building the acting part of it, where did that come from? Was it always just sort of it came to you naturally, or did you work hard?
I say it's your personality, but just like crazy intensified. It'd be like it's my personality, like on like a massive amounts of Red Bull and Viagra and steroids and everything just all combined
All together.
Yeah, it's kind of this. That's me. It's just way turned up. The volume is cranked up, and it's kind of what it is. It's hard just to play a character if you don't believe it. You know, if you don't believe that character, then the fans aren't going to believe it. So anybody who, let's take Undertaker for wrestler that's been around for a long time. He's a real good friend of mine, but when he's doing that character, he believes it so much that he's so good at it. It's like a part of him, that he's playing out there. And I don't know where he came up with it, but he just did, and people believe it. Man, he's so good at it.
How was your experience working with the Misfits in Action team?
That was good. It was good. I all of them. They're all fun. Still to this day, a lot of my friends, and like Lash LaRue just did a new T-shirt for me. He's a real good artist. Just did a new T-shirt for me, and it's just another one of those things. You just roll with punches and just do it to the best of my ability. And that's the way I do it. Anything I do, I'm going to do the best I can. If I got to stamp my name on it, it might as well be as best I can do it.
A random question.
Yeah.
Do you have a wrestling rink in your backyard too?
I don't. You know what?
No tenting with the kids.
No, I would. I'm doing some stuff right now with Quentin Rampage Jackson. He's a good friend of mine with the same agent and entertainment lawyer right now. We are doing a lot of projects together right now, which is like some movies and a lot of things that work. I can't explain too much of them because they're in fruition right now. In the next couple weeks, a lot more we'll be able to say about it. But with him, he's got a gym, his Rampage Academy. So I'm in the works of putting a ring in there and doing some pro wrestling training in there. So I won't have it in the backyard, but I'll still have access to it. Yeah. You know what? You just got to get away from wrestling sometimes because it will consume you. If you let it, that thing it'll eat you up and spit you out. Yeah. So with me, I get home and I don't even really think about wrestling. I try not. It's always on your mind. It's always on your mind. Like I don't know how many different moves I've tried on my wife. Not that way, but this way. Like I'll see something on TV and I go, I see something. I go, hold on a second. Come over here, and I'll like put her in some little weird way and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, that's good." And she's like, "What are you doing to me? Gosh, hey, you love it. Shut up, bitch."
You also are a trainer on the MTV's Tough Enough?
Yeah, Tough Enough too. Yep.
What was that like? Kind of going from star on the stage to star on TV, kind of.
That it was cool. It was different. What's cool about it was that it was. I'm a natural teacher out there. I don't know, just I've been blessed that way to where I really enjoy coaching and teaching, and that was a good way for me to talk about wrestling and get it out there. I learned it was my real first time on TV, not in a pro wrestling role.
Right.
It was in on MTV, and it was a TV show. So I learned a lot from it for sure. You got to learn that it wasn't really about wrestling. It's about drama. It's about selling. Getting people to. To watch, because without the ratings, there's no show. So I learned a lot from it, and that's what I really take from it. But it was fun, just being close to home. It was in LA, and they put me in an apartment over there, but I was able to still come home, and it was just a fun time.
What were some things from the show, like you said? Okay, so you learned that it was more about drama. Was there anything that you could take from it to kind of add to your character in wrestling?
Oh yeah, well add to my character in wrestling, but my Hollywood character. I learned a lot from there. I'm always kind of like one of those observing guys. I hate people when I hire somebody to do some work at my house. They kind of hate it because I always I can watch them. Like somebody's doing drywall, I'm checking them out, and they're like, "What is going on with this dude?" I'm like, "No offense, guys. I'm just looking at what you're doing so that I never have to hire you again." And it's true. I mean, I can do pretty much everything in my house now because I'll watch what they do. So I can do that. Okay, so now I can do drywall and building and woodworking and working on cars and laying tile and everything because I learned from watching those guys. It's really not all that hard. You just got to learn how to do it.
See, I see an HGTV show waiting for you already.
There it is.
It just popped in my head. I'm like,
yeah, man, for sure. I love doing all that stuff. I mean, I got all the saws, the table saws, the miter saws. I'm constantly building stuff, But it's the same thing with Tough Enough because I was watching, the production. I was watching the direction. I was kind of watching everything. I was watching catering. I was kind of like that. So I learned how to do a lot of that, and I put that in my backstage life a lot, to where it was at the end of when I was in WWE was I started kind of directing my own stuff to where we had directors come in and I would just, you have to do it politically correct. You have to say, okay, well, how about we try it this way? You know, you don't want to step on their toes because that's their job. But how about hey, Chavo, that's a great idea. That, you know, I didn't think about, okay, we'll try that. Hey, great, you know, and you almost start producing yourself. And that really just from just observing those guys do it, you know.
And is that something you'd even like to do more like in your career? I know you're acting. Would you like to do producing and directing as well?
Absolutely. I like really anything with the camera and just I watch now, and it's hard for me to watch film, watching movies because I'll be watching going, okay, well there's the wrong car in there. That's a wrong era. That's not, you know, okay. I'll stop and rewind it, and I'll show my wife, and I'll say, okay, look, see how his tie was this way, but next scene it was this way because the continuity was wrong. I see it now, you know, and I, you know, I'm watching acting now and saying, okay, well, that guy's not a very good actor. Okay, that guy's a great actor. Oh my gosh, you know. So it's kind of cool. I just saw the movie. What was that? What was the last movie? I guess Reds. Was it Reds? It was. I just read it on Netflix.
Yeah, it is Red.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. Well, I think
2.
the first Red and
Bruce Willis, right?
Was that the movie I just saw? Hold on, I'm just saying. Robert Duvall was in. I don't know if this is the one he was in. What an incredible actor! I was watching him act. Like the guy was so. I couldn't tell he was acting. I believed he was that part, and it was just. That wasn't even a big role. It was, you know. No, it wasn't Reds. It was Jack Reacher. That's exactly what it was. I was just watching movies the other day, and you know, and with Tom Cruise, I could kind of tell that he was acting sometimes, and nothing against Tom Cruise because the guy's, you know, he's Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah.
But they just, you know, I was just enthralled with Robert Duvall, and I was rewinding different scenes, and my wife's like, "What are you doing? Can't we just watch this dang movie?" My kid's like, "Dad, like, shut up."
Now, if your kids want to be a wrestler, would you want them to come into the industry?
I told them, I get asked that a lot. I said, sure, if you bring me a diploma first. Bring me a diploma, and then I'll train you, because it's a great business. It's a great business for a young guy or girl to travel the world and make some money. But what happens is that you get wife and kids or husband and kids, and all of a sudden you're kind of locked in. It's like, gosh, how do I get out? I'm making good money.
Yeah.
You know, the exit plan is always planned for you in wrestling, whether you plan it or wrestling plans it. So you want to be involved in planning it, but it's like, if I got nothing else to fall back on, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So that's what I told him. I said, sure, if you guys want to do it, okay, but you bring me a diploma. Thank God that one wants to be a pro football player and one wants to be a chef.
Oh, there you
Nice.
Yeah.
There's plenty of ways to make money in both of those areas.
Yeah, and I told the pro football player guy, I said, you know, you really better get your degree now, because you're probably not going to do that, you know. You know, but the same, I wanted to be a pro football player too. I wanted to play for the Dallas Cowboys, and then wrestle on the off season, 100%, and that, you know, didn't even come close to being true.
Wow.
Well, you're obviously a physical guy. I mean, I would imagine that I know you've sustained a couple injuries, like a concussion,
real
a
bad.
broken, or is it
Eye
orbital
orbit,
bone?
yeah, by broken eye orbit and you know, torn bicep. I mean, I've been hurt for 18 years straight. I really have. I've been hurt.
What kept you motivated
with this
with
fake wrestling? I've been hurt. You know what? It's so physical that you constantly you're hurt, and you got to just work around it. And that's, you know, I'm so used to working around things that nothing really stops me anymore. You just kind of get in the gym and kind of just do it, you know.
And did you have like a hype song to get you going? You know, something you sat in your car with right before you got in the ring. And
I got a ton of them, man. You know, anything Snoop or Dre. I'm an old school.
Old school hip hop,
right? Yeah, hip hop for sure. You know, Snoop or Dre for sure. Foo Fighters. I love the Foo Fighters. You know, when I get into that rock and roll, you know, sense or whatever you want to call it. You know, just different stuff. My boy, Baby Bash. You know, he's my buddy. So some of his stuff. You know, you know, I could go on and on, you know, but
in 2008, you reached the highest level of your success with the singles win from you defeated CM Punk.
Yep.
And then you went to win the ECW championship.
Correct. Yep.
What was the difference between that win and the other championships that you actually had won? Why was that like the one that you really felt put you on the map?
You know what? Our dream, mine, Eddie's dream, my Uncle Eddie, our dream was to be the world tag team champions. It wasn't to be, you know, our single champions. We always pretended we'd take my dad's and uncle's, you know, championship belts and wear them and pretend that we were the champs. So when we achieved that dream, at Madison Square Garden of all places, you know, we defeated. It was a three-way dance, we call it, you know, with three different teams. It was me and Eddie against Rey Mysterio and Edge, against Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle. When we became the WWE Tag-Team Champions, SmackDown version, whatever you want to call it, we achieved that goal. So we had to make other goals for ourselves. So we said, okay, well, we got to become the heavyweight champions. So Eddie became the world heavyweight champion, and I became the ECW champion. So it was, a couple years after that, but you just have to set different goals. Once you achieve them, you got to do other things, So with me, it was, it wasn't the ECW of old. It was the new WWE version. So I didn't think, okay, I made it. I've never actually thought that. I thought, okay, you know what am I gonna do now? So now I got to set my sights in different titles, different titles. So, it was great, but you gotta. And I don't believe the hype. I'm not one of those guys. I don't believe the hype. I'm like, okay, let's just. It's my job. Let's get it done. Okay, what's next? You're only as good as your next match. I said, not your last match. Your next match.
And what's kind of the evolution from that with wrestling and what you want to get into next?
Now it's transitioning into acting. I mean, really, I got endorsements coming on here and starting at a couple different businesses going on, like I was talking about with Quentin, with Rampage Jackson. But it's really just doing some acting stuff, and I'm so close to LA here, and it's just like it's a natural transition because we've been doing it, already on, in wrestling in front of, it's a little different because we do it so over the top, we're so big, and I get on camera sometimes, that little small screen, they said they're like, slow down, keep it smaller, you're too big, so I'm too I'm too theatrical, so I got to bring it down a little bit, but it's just a natural transition. We've kind of been doing that, so of course you got a lot to learn. It's definitely different, but it's just something that people have been trying to tell me for years to do it, and it's like, all right, let's try it, and it's actually working out. We got a lot of big things coming here real soon. I just finished a movie called Fight to the Finish, which is an MMA type movie where I play a crooked trainer type guy in there. So that was really cool. It was real fun, and the director loved it and thought I did really well. So that's it's good for the reel.
And wrestling-wise, I mean, you've played bad guys, good guys.
Yeah.
As far as acting, is there kind of a role that you would really like to aspire to play?
Yeah, you know what? I don't think there's just one role. I would like to break out of just that mean wrestling type role that I can play. I already proved I can play that.
Right.
And I want to play. I'll do a love story. I'll do, a comedy. Definitely want to do comedy. I'm fun-looking guy anyway, so that's something that you comedic timing. You can have it outside of the camera, but on camera it's different. It really is. So I want to see if I can do that, and I believe I can. I'm open to just getting better. Like I said, anything I do, I want to put my name on it. I gotta do it the best of my ability and just really work at it and work. Whether it's getting acting coaches and just practicing all the time, or whatever it is, I'll do it.
And what's it like without having the audience there?
It's
for you.
I think it's easier and harder. It's easier in the fact that there's not as much pressure, but I think I work better under pressure. When that red light comes on and I'm in front of 10,000 people, that's when I think you mess up, you just got to cover it up. It's not like, all right, what's my line? Line? Okay, and go right back into it. So I think it's easier just being on that small screen on the camera. But, just being in front, it's nothing like being in front of a live crowd. Right. Live crowds, that's when your adrenaline's going. It's through the roof, man. You're just like wrestling in front. I did something with Jerry Piven when he came to Raw one time, and he was like, "Oh my God, this was incredible!" And we're on the side of the ring. He's like, "This is great! Wow!" And I said, "That's pretty awesome, huh?" He goes like, "Oh man, I felt like it was, 1992, and I was at the laugh stop of the Comedy Store when he was doing stand up." He was like, this was awesome, but now you're punching each other, and it was kind of cool to to get his version of it, And I'm like, our adrenaline's through the roof, man. You just gotta control it, and it's different for sure, Yeah, I've worked with a lot of different celebrities in that sense, And they all like say like, "Wow, man, I can see how this is just addicting." I said, "Oh, there's no drug like it. No drug like it in the world."
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Obviously, we're Black Hollywood Live, so we often talk about representations of people of color in general. And now that you're sort of moving into TV and film and those types of things, where do you sort of see your responsibility, or your desire to sort of be a part of making even your own heritage as a Latin man more apparent on television?
I'm so
and in
glad
film?
you asked that. That we're going there, because just in wrestling, I was asked. I've been stopped so many different times, and it doesn't really happen to other wrestlers. It's like let's say a guy from Ireland or whatever. I get stopped by Hispanic people all the time, going, "God, thank you for what you do for us, for for la raza, for our race," and I'm like, "Guys, I'm just trying to feed my family." And they go, "No, you don't understand. We don't have people in Hollywood. We don't have we have a George Lopez, or we don't have people in sports. We don't have people in Hollywood. They just don't have them." So I find it a huge responsibility for me to actually represent the Hispanic people. Huge, and that's something that it's not only my audience. I realize that hugely. I just feel a huge responsibility to them, that it's not just doing it for me now. I'm doing it for them. I really am. I want to represent them and add to them, because it's such a big culture, and it's so growing. It's the growing biggest culture. Biggest what do you call it, the
Race.
The race, not race, but
in
the
the country.
demographic. That's what I'm
Demographic.
for. In the country, it really is, and they're saying, by 2023, it'll be the majority.
The majority.
Majority. Yeah, for
And,
sure.
and me, I was talking to Edward J. Olmos, dropping names, of course, and he was saying, he's like, "No, man," he's like, "it's before then. It's before then. It's like in 2021." He's like, "It'll be the majority."
Yeah.
And then there's the majority, and there's nobody for them out there.
Right.
It's a not just a great responsibility, it's a great opportunity, and I'm going to attack it.
Capitalize.
Yeah.
Well,
for
as you're in
sure.
this transitional period from wrestler to actor, is there someone's career that you look at that you'd like to emulate after? Like, obviously, Dwayne "The Rock" has had a successful monster of a career. I mean, all of us want to be The Rock, but is there somebody who you would like to emulate your career
that
after?
guy he's such a nice guy, such a grace guy. I love that guy. Not just in the ring, but his acting, and he's really made himself this blockbuster guy. So definitely him for sure. But have you ever met Dwayne?
No.
You see him.
I've seen him.
He walks in the ring. He walks in the room. You're like, who the heck is that? The guy's 6'4" with this 1,000-watt smile. You're like, that guy is a movie star. 100%.
Yeah.
And a genuinely nice guy. Really, really, really is. Definitely him. But there's just so many different people in Hollywood that you look up to. Like a De Niro and and Pacino and those guys that are just, they had their struggles, but they persevered, and they're at where they've been, not by luck. Where they are, they're not there by luck. They're there by hard work.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then with that, obviously you are a celebrity in wrestling and you are transitioning into acting, comes the part of that a lot of people hate is the press and the media of hearing stories about yourself. What have you read about yourself or seen that just pissed you off, basically?
You know what? You got to take it with a grain of salt, man, because especially these days of social media now, which is another company I'm doing right now, also a social media company that's dealing with monetizing social media. It's there's nothing like it out there. It's going to start soon. It's massive, but just with still social media now, if someone wanted to write something bad about you or talk bad about you, they had to write a letter and send it into your studio, your fan club, or whatever. Now they 140 characters. They send it real quick, so the haters all have voices. You got to brush it off. You really do, and just you can't let them overshadow the millions of people that like you, because the haters are small. They're such a small few. And everybody's got them. You just got to blow it off. And any stories out there, you just you take it with a grain of salt. And my grandfather always told me, there's you've heard this before, I'm sure, but no publicity is bad publicity. If they're talking good about you, or they're talking bad about you, at least they're talking about you. Because once they stop talking about you, that's when you got to worry about it. Once they don't care anymore, once they don't care that you messed up and you're found in bed with a tranny, then you have a problem.
Right.
and that's the truth, you know. So anything written about me is kind of, I take it with a grain of salt, and you can just say, all right, so, you know, you might say, to answer your question, something that does bother me at times is people say, well, you're not as good as other parts of your family. You're not as good as Eddie. Well, Eddie used to get the same thing. He used to get, you're not as good as, and this is straight from his mouth, you're not as good as my dad was, his older brothers. My dad used to get it, you're not as good as your dad. So there's always going to be people that like other people more than you or whatever. And we've learned that you're not as good as them. You can't be, because they're them. You're you. You can only be as good as you can be. Yeah. And you have to just blow all those haters off, and just on Twitter just block. You know, really, you know, and that's really all you can do. You know, I'm sure you guys get it.
Oh yeah.
You know, I'm sure you get it. I'm sure you, right? It's like, what? Don't you guys have anything better to do than to hate on people? Or like, I like the ones that make the fake accounts like they're you.
Yeah.
Like they're, and you're trying to get followers to follow you, follow them, like follow a fake you. We're like, is your life that miserable, that pathetic that you have to pretend you're somebody else?
Yeah.
Catfish.
Weird, right? Yeah, catfish. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Hey, if you're listening, don't do that. Close all your fake accounts.
I would imagine they wouldn't want to mess with you too much, though.
You know what?
I see the guns over there.
No,
So.
I got the jacket on purpose. You know what? It's one of those that I'm not 6'8", so I don't get the. They look at me and freak out. You know, I get a lot of times they look at me like, oh, well, he's not that big. So the people say that to me. Oh, you ain't that tough. You ain't that bad. I say, yeah, you're right. I just got to be a little better than you.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's all it takes.
So people are like, oh, there's something messed up with this guy.
Yeah.
My friends call me the Mexican Hulk.
The Mexican Hulk, I like
The
that.
mulk,
The
because
mulk.
because when you don't like me when I'm mad, you release it. It's like, my small man complex come out, and I'm like, I can beat you up. I know I can.
There we go. We got to get Mulk shirt.
We got to get our Mulk shirt. That's the new one.
The
eBay.
Hulk.
eBay
The
part 2.
Hulk, the Mexican Hulk.
Well, this actually kind of goes with the next question. If you could describe yourself with one word, what
That's
would
it,
it be?
man. The mulk. The mulk.
The
man.
mulk.
My wife hates it. She hates it. It's my gift and my curse. Because you know, she says, man, you're 5'9", but you become 6'4" really fast, and people like freak out, like, this dude's crazy, man.
Yeah.
What's going on? You know, and I don't like getting that way. I hate it. But it's, you know, I suppress them. I David Banner them. I suppress them.
And what did you feel about the recent announcement about the WWE Network?
I think it's great for them, man. I'm not one of those hater guys that, you know, well, you talk bad about, you know, whatever company. I'm happy for them. I want them to succeed. It's better for wrestling. It's better for everybody. You know, I want all wrestling companies to succeed out there. You know, with them, it's definitely a challenge. It's new territory, so it's going to be growing pains for them for sure. And they're gonna do a lot of things right, and they're going to do a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately the fan is going to win, and that's why we do this business. We do it for our fans. We can feed our families because of these fans, you know, so we always have to remember that. You always have to know what you're doing, why you're doing this, and who to thank. And my grandfather always told me that there's you have a responsibility to these people. They're, especially in this economy, they can pay their money and they don't have a lot of it.
Yeah.
But they're choosing to watch you. And whatever it is, your film or your TV show or your new Fix-It show that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
HGTV
Your
show.
executive producer.
Exactly.
Give me a call.
Yeah, or whatever it is. You seeing you wrestle, you have an obligation and responsibility to deliver give them their money's worth.
Yeah.
100%. And there's always those people that are watching you for the first time, but there's always those people that are watching you for the last time.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to. You have to give them your money's worth. That's your obligation, huge, and that's something that I always stress to the younger wrestlers. Like, well, guys, it's your responsibility to go out there and work your ass off for these guys.
And is there someone, I know you worked with like Darren Young. Is there any up and coming other wrestlers that you really have your eye on that you're like, that's the next new star?
You know what? That's really hard to say because people get it real early. And then all of a sudden they fall off, or somebody are late bloomers, you know, like John Cena. Like John Cena was just a guy that was, you know, good-looking guy, great body, okay wrestler, in our locker room wearing trunks and tights. And then all of a sudden, we were in South Africa. This is a true story. We were in South Africa, and we heard him start battle rapping with somebody backstage, and we're like, "Are you kidding? Did you just come up with that?" He's like, "Well, yeah, it's one of my little talents, and I've done a bunch of battle rap challenges." And we're like, "All right." So then I think it was Tommy Dreamer that took him to Shane McMahon, Vince McMahon's son. He goes, "Listen to this." And then they brought him to Vince McMahon. He was like, "Wow, that was great." So if you remember early stages of John Cena, he was this rapper guy on TV, like this white rapper,
He was.
Yeah, and he was great, right off the cuff. He was awesome, And then he just evolved into what he is now. So no one really saw it at first, and then all of a sudden he became this late bloomer, and just he's awesome. He's great. He's great in the mic, man. There's kind of nobody like him, really.
Yeah, and he's become such a huge star too. Just
on
the screen.
For sure. A great Make-A-Wish, great representative for WWE and Make-A-Wish, and so many different things. You can, say what you want about him and not like him, and believe me, I have. I have, and I'll take some of that back, because the guy really is a good guy. He's a cool ass dude, and you can see why he's in the position that he's in, because he's a hard worker. He really does, and he gives to those fans. He really does.
And tell us about some of your celebrity ambassador role and some of your new endorsements.
Yeah. Okay. So this new company that I'm working with is called Tweet Secret. It's a brand new. It's launching here within the next month, and it is a company that deals with monetizing social media for celebrities. So as what we did wrong as celebrities is we started giving everything away for free to get more followers, to give them more free stuff. There's a lot of celebrities out there that have a ton of followers and then are broke.
Yeah.
Broke bitches.
Another T-shirt.
Yeah, exactly. I'm rich, bitch. You want that, right? But you know what? It's true. And so this company kind of creates a VIP experience for your hardcore fans and gives them content that you couldn't really give them otherwise. And they created a great app that it's just a really great delivery system for your fans, and I think it's a game changer. I really think it is going to change the way that everybody interacts with the fans. So that's cool. I'm really excited about that, and just doing some stuff with Quentin, like I keep saying, and just my next movie's coming up, and we're in talks right now with some couple directors, and the sky's the limit, man. We're just gonna attack it.
We're excited for your new roles and transition.
Thank you.
Where can all your fans find you if they want to find out more about your endorsement deals or what you're doing? Where can they find you?
Yeah, everything's tied into my Twitter. Follow me at Mex Warrior, like Mexican Warrior, MEX Warrior.
MEX Warrior.
Yeah. That's where you can find pretty much everything that's done with me there. And on Instagram, I'm Chavo Guerrero Jr. But everything's just linked all up together. I push one tweet out, it goes to everywhere. One picture goes to my Facebook, goes to my Instagram, everything.
So just find
all right.
Just find them.
You'll find them somewhere.
You'll find me.
Just be there.
Just put the bat cam. You put the bat thing. Then you just put a burrito in the sky. I come a big old burrito cam. That's it, man.
The Mulk will arrive.
The Mulk will show up in the Lolo, the '63 rag top.
I'm ready for the new Avengers movie.
Right. I think listen, we got some projects that we want you to do.
That's it. That's it, man. That's it. I love it.
Jesse, where can your fans find you?
You guys can find me at DJ Jesse J.
Courtney.
And you can find me at Stewart Starlet.
And you can find me at Derrial Christon on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you guys for tuning in. We have the superstar himself, Chavo.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, man. Peace.
you
Viva
for
la
being
raza.
Check him out. Check out all of his stuff. Go to his Twitter. Go to his Facebook. Everything he has, and find out what he's doing.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Derrial Christon, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in to the Black Hollywood Live Network. If you have questions or comments, tweet us at BHL Online or email us at info@blackhollywoodlive.com. For more exclusive content, visit blackhollywoodlive.com. This has been a presentation of the Black Hollywood Live Network.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.